Hey 50 fans, I'm Kendra with 50 Flowers, and today we're going to talk about what do you do when your flowers arrive. We're going to go ahead and process them. That is just the term we use to take the plastic off of your flowers, put them in water, and make sure they're hydrated and ready to go for your wedding. With me today, I have a couple flowers in front of me just to kind of show you what we do with different flowers. We know that when you get flowers, it can kind of feel daunting because they come in all shapes and sizes. And what are you supposed to do with all of them to make sure everyone looks fresh and happy? So we're gonna walk through using kale, grevillea, hydrangeas, and ranunculus. Okay, let's get started. Alright, so before we get started, I really want to talk about the difference between delicate and hardy. We do have a video that you can also watch on our YouTube, but for right now, the brief overview is hardy are flowers that are going to last in hot sun. They might have a stronger stem. Hardy flowers tend to be roses, kale, and any of your greenery. And then we have delicate flowers, and delicate flowers are things that have very soft blooms that could get hurt or damaged while transport. They don't like sitting out in the sun, and those are going to be your hydrangeas, your ranunculus, your dahlias, your veronicas. All of those flowers just really struggle being in the hot sun, so if you're planning an outdoor wedding, take that in consideration. There are ways to hydrate it and preserve it, but at the end of the day, they're going to look really wilted. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to process is kale, because it is probably the simplest thing that you can process. So the first thing I'm going to do is take off the wrapping. Alright, so I do have my kale open, and oh my gosh, this is a beautiful color. Do you see that? So we can fluff these open, but when they hydrate, they'll kind of regain their shape. They won't look as flat. And they are pretty simple. Like I said, you just want to make sure that if the leaves are lower than the water line, that you take these off. But most of the time, kale comes pretty well stripped, so you don't have to worry about that. And all we're going to do is take our bunch cutters and cut it at an angle. Ooh, and you might have to get like a good branch cutter that's nice and big, but we're going to cut it at an angle so that when it hits the bottom of the vase that it can sit and drink water. If it was nice and flat, then it wouldn't be able to have as much access points to the water. As soon as you cut it, you want to put it in water. We say about 30 seconds of cutting it, it should be placed in water, otherwise it's going to scab up and not be able to drink as much. So I'm going to finish processing the rest of these real quick, and then we'll move on to our next one. Perfect. This looks so cottagecore. You could have this in a vase by itself and it would look so gorgeous. Okay, the next one that we're going to talk about is hydrangeas. And hydrangeas are pretty simple as well, but you'll notice that oftentimes it will come with a bag at the bottom of the stems. They're usually filled with water, and that's just because hydrangeas need a lot of water to transport. Since their name is hydro, meaning water, they can drink water from the blooms and the bottom. So when we're processing, I do recommend that when you put them in water, you remember to mist the top so that they stay fresh. And those are one of the tips that you can keep them fresh if you're having outdoor weddings, is to mist them with water. Again, with hydrangeas, they'll come with big leaves. You want to be able to take those off because they suck up a lot of energy of the water that's supposed to go to the bloom. So by taking them off, it just makes them last longer and they're not drawing as much energy into the leaves. Alright, perfect. So I'm going to grab my 5-gallon bucket because these stems are really tall, and I don't necessarily want to cut them because I might need tall stems when I'm designing. Let's say if I'm doing an arch piece, I want to make sure that I'm not wasting the stem. All right, so I have my 5-gallon bucket that is going to help me hydrate the flowers. Before I put the flowers in, I want to take the flower food that came with the hydrangeas. Some flowers will come with flower food, some of them won't. It depends on what the farm believes that you need to keep them fresh. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these open. And flower food goes a long way, so typically I only pour maybe 1/4 to 1/2 a packet in 1-gallon bucket. So you can definitely use this to go between 3 buckets, I would say. And you can go ahead and get 5-gallon buckets at any of your hardware stores. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour this in. Perfect. And then I'm going to remove the plastic wrap and the water so that we can hydrate the hydrangeas. Okay, so I just put the hydrangeas in water and now I grabbed my greenery. Since this bucket is big, we can combine them, but just remember, I am combining delicate flowers with hardy flowers, which is kind of difficult. We recommend mostly stuffing your buckets with hardy flowers and keeping your delicates separate. However, there is a lot of space, so it's fine in this case. When we talk about stuffing your bucket, the biggest thing is if you do have delicates in your bucket, make sure that they have enough breathing space. A lot of flowers who are delicate don't like their petals being touched, and they won't bloom open if they feel like they're claustrophobic. So often you want to kind of keep them separated or have bigger space in your bucket. So with greenery, everything still needs to be cut at an angle, just like any flower. But the thing that we want to make sure that we do is strip the leaves, because that's anything that's sitting in the water line is going to mold and create bacteria, which will kill the rest of the flowers in the bucket. So if your water line is 4 inches, you want to make sure that you're removing, 4 inches of leaves so that they're not sitting in the water line. And the easiest way to remove the greenery is taking your fingers and pinching the stem just above the twigs and going ahead and sliding down. And when you slide down, they're just kind of gonna gather in your hand. And like I said, all we do is cut them and then put them in the vase. Alrighty, so the last flower that we're going to talk about are ranunculus. The reason why I showed you hydrangeas versus ranunculus is because the stem length. So with hydrangeas, you saw that they can come in really, really long stems, but ranunculus tend to have really short stems, so we can't just put them in a bucket. So what we do with ranunculus is get a small vase. It's great if you're preparing for your wedding and you already have centerpiece vases like this, because you can go ahead and process your flowers in it. And the main thing to know about ranunculus is because they're delicate, again, they don't like to touch, they like to have their space to bloom open, and they take about 3 days to open. If you need them to open faster, then just go ahead and use a little bit of warm water, not boiling hot, but just like warm water to put them in, and they will bloom open faster. So I'm gonna go ahead and open this and kind of show you the bud size of the ranunculus. So the reason why I wanted to show you the different bud size is ranunculus come in a lot of shapes and sizes. You can have some that are flattened like this, you can have some that are already bloomed open, or you can have something that's more in the bud shape. Oops. So this bud shape is going to bloom open as big as this or even bigger, but it does need that time to hydrate in order to do so. So we're gonna go ahead and cut these and put them in water, and in a couple days they're gonna look big and beautiful for your wedding. Okay, so as you can see in this vase, I kept them very separated so none of the blooms are touching and they all have their personal space where they can kind of just do their own thing, this is what you want to do. I could probably put another 10 stems of ranunculus in and it'd be fine, but once it starts getting overcrowded, it's when you want to move on to another vase. Alrighty, so in this video we showed you how to process or hydrate your flowers, and we showed you the different kinds of flowers including greenery, fillers, and focals, so that you know what to expect when you unbox your flowers. Whether you're dealing with delicates or hardy, make sure that you cut it at an angle and put it in water, and make sure to use the flower food if it is provided. Today all I used was my bunch cutters and my scissors, as well as my flower food. Processing is really simple, and all the other tips that I have for you is to make sure that once you're done hydrating, check the water every 2 days before your wedding to make sure that the flowers have enough water. Usually the first day they drink a lot more than the rest of the day, so maybe check after 24 hours. And also put it in a cool room. I suggest temperatures of like 65 degrees so that they can last longer. If your flowers are delayed for some reason, keep in mind that the best way to get your flowers to bloom open on time is keeping them in a warmer room, maybe around 68 to 69 degrees with warm water, and they should open up for your wedding. Hopefully you're feeling a little bit more confident with your wedding flowers coming in. We believe that you can totally do this, and if you do have any questions, go ahead and reach out to our customer service. We're here to help you every step of the way. I'm Kendra with 50 Flowers, and I'll see you in the next video.